Absolutely. I think, Prashant, what are you focusing on this week?
Is the budget really as good as it's been touted to be? I think it's good. The big numbers are all great, but on capital expenditure, there seems to be a sharp slowdown. So let me, go across to the big wall and tell you what I'm talking about. And I think, sometimes as it happens, right after the budget, you look at the big picture, but a day, 2 days, 3 days later, people start focusing on some of the finer points, right? This is not that much of a finer point. This is still, these are the big numbers. What I'm looking at is the government's expenditure on capital projects, capital expenditure. And I've broken this into some of the most talked about sectors. And this, these are the last 3 or 4 years, starting from FY20. I've taken out the FY21 number because that is the COVID year. So we start with FY20, go to FY22, and so on and so forth. The last 2 years are FY24, the revised estimate, which we got yesterday. And this is the new number, which is FY25 budgeted estimate. So let's start with the railway capex. As you can see, they're self-explanatory. 23, the budgeted capex for railways grew 7%. 24, 27%. The number for FY25 is 2%. Sharp slowdown, right? Let's move on to the next one. This is the road capex. This is even more stark. Take a look at the FY20 number, 11% growth. 22, 16%. 23, 15. The number that we got for the full year 24 yesterday was 28, and just a 3% growth in expenditure on the road capex expected this time around. The next one will come up after roads. This is defense. Defense is a little better. 20 was very large, but then it's kind of come down to 3%, 10% for this year, the revised number, and 9% for FY25. So defense actually is okay. But housing and urban affairs has also seen a sharp moderation. So no change in FY24 revised number, but FY25 budgeted expenditure here grows only 3%, right? FY23 number was 20% plus. So this is the comprehensive those 4 sectors that I mentioned, the total expenditure growth. As you can see, 23 growth 10%, 24, 22%. And the budgeted expenditure on some of the end infra markets like railways, roads, housing, urban infrastructure is only expected to grow about 4% or so. This is the total capital expenditure because the earlier one was those 4 sectors, but this includes all the capital expenditure that individual ministries will spend on as well. And the number is on your screen. FY24 is 28%. Right? It's in the 20s. 22 was 39%. The growth in FY25 is only 17%. So this is a sharp moderation that we are looking at. So where is the growth in capex really coming from? That 17% number that we showed, where is that coming from? Because none of these individual sectors like roads, defense, etc. are seeing that big a jump. The government has allocated 74,000 crores. The Ministry of Finance has allocated it for the Department of Economic Affairs for what they call new schemes. But we don't know what these new schemes are at this point in time. And there is also 30,000 crores which is allocated for loans to states on capex, etc. So this is where, the increase in capital expenditures is about 1,10,000, 12,000 crores. And the bulk of it is these 2 items where this growth is actually coming from. But, is it possible that the government spends more? Although it doesn't seem very large, right? The numbers which they've budgeted for, it's possible. I'll tell you why. Because that 74,000 crores of new schemes, if it's not spent, if the government does not spend it fully on these new schemes, it can be diverted to, areas where spending is required. This is, of course, we spoke about all day yesterday. FY24 tax assumptions by the government actually are very conservative. So if you assume similar growth rates in tax receipts in FY25, if the FY24 base is large, then you actually, the tax kitty is much higher. The ability to spend will be much larger. And this is, a broader point, but it's important. What is sacrosanct and what the market liked very much is this 5.1% fiscal deficit target. So this will not change. But how the government gets to this 5.1% can change. And that may allow the government more leeway, more room when it presents the full year, the big July FY25 budget to maybe increase spends on some of these sectors that I put out. Back to you.
All right. Thanks a lot for that.
For more news and updates, all you need to do is follow CNBC-TV18 on all of our digital platforms.